Doctors, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth. Hands up, who the hell didn't see this one coming? I've been telling you for at least the last 10 days or so that the judge in this case was going to be taking it upon himself to throw out any and everything that could be used against Rittenhouse. And I told you, look for him to start throwing those charges out. If this little scumbag gets convicted, look for the judge to set the jury verdict aside, and that he would be citing Rittenhouse's age as his justification for everything. I posted for you on Twitter those tweets where I was pointing that out. The judge was going to be pointing to his age and saying, why we can't convict him, why he shouldn't be in court. His age, you see. I had also been telling you that the strongest charges against Rittenhouse were the weapons charges, because he unquestionably was underage, but his attorneys were claiming that there was some sort of loophole in the law that allowed him to be able to roam the street with an assault rifle based on the barrel length. That, of course, is a very, very circumspect reading of it, but the judge looked and said, good enough for me. Because that's what white supremacy is about when it's trying to keep up some pathetic semblance of having a reason, a justification. Well, this may be a very weak hook to hang my hat on, but I'm going to do it anyway and see if I get burned for it. This is what they've done. The judge was terrified of all the charges of the weapons charges that they were the most scared of. And by they, I mean the defense and the judge, who himself has made it very clear he's a de facto member of the defense. This judge has been going overboard to show his bias. He wants to make it very clear to everybody that he is prejudiced in this case. He's putting on a show. Because when the white supremacists get old and at the end of their days, that one of the things they want to make clear is their completely thorough contempt for anyone and anything that challenges white supremacy. And the two murder victims in this case, yes, they were two white men, a third one if you consider the guy who got shot but didn't die. The judge is speaking for all these little white supremacists. You guys are some nigger lovers, and you're calling yourselves supporting these niggers against the thugs in blue. I mean, the men and women of law enforcement. And well, we're going to send a message that if you stand with the niggers, we'll make sure you get killed with impunity too. And it doesn't have to be somebody with a badge to do it. We'll pull out all the stops. This is how race war is conducted. That's what's going on here. The judge is making it very clear that he is off from the bench helping to prosecute a race war. Now, why is this judge being so bold about it, or to use his word, brazen about it? Because we are attempting to try to get a group of individuals who may be sitting on the fence or who may not be mobilized. If you're trying to get them mobilized, you got to provoke them. And what that means is you got to be very bold and out front, and indeed, in the judge's case, just go over the top with all of these theatrics for the sake of sending a message to them that you guys need to be moving to. That's the message that he's trying to send. The judge has been spending this entire trial trying to engineer and manufacture an acquittal, because that's what's required here. Mistrial wouldn't be enough. It's probably some people saying that the prosecution was going for mistrial or risking mistrial. No, the judge was not going to allow that. The problem with trying to call for a mistrial is, well, they can always just bring the charges again. Mistrial simply means you're not guilty, but it doesn't mean that double jeopardy attaches. Double jeopardy doesn't attach until there's a verdict. So no, there was not going to be any getting out of the fact that this was going to have to go to a jury at some point. So the judge has just done everything that he can to broadcast to the jury loud as he possibly can. I don't think the prosecution has a case. This trial is improper evidence. This prosecutor's crossed the line. Look at this innocent young man over here. Sure, he's committed a mass shooting and murdered two people. That makes him bona fide mass murder, but we can't call it. Guess besides, he's white, and these two white men who he killed, well, these guys were calling themselves standing in solidarity with black people. So, truth be told, he had it coming. I've been telling you that the white supremacists need the Rittenhouse trial to result in a clean sweep. He had to be acquitted or otherwise found not guilty on all the charges. They had to get rid of all of it. They could not afford for Rittenhouse to do any time at all, because any time that he spends in jail, everybody would look at it and say, well, he called himself shooting at people, shooting at Black Lives Matter protesters, and he went to trial, and then he got convicted for it. Now he's sitting in prison. They understand the symbolic value, no matter what the literal charges are that would have put him in a prison cell. The fact that he would have spent any time in prison at all would have been the problem. For them, that would have been the problem. So they need for him to walk completely on this, because that's the point they're trying to make, to embolden all of the other would-be race killers out there. Next time you see some protest, just start shooting at people, and the judges will get the message that, hey, we're just going to be calling it for the shooters. We're going to be calling it for the murderers in this case, because we're sending the message the race war's on. So the judge at the 11th hour now, I guess he had to get his little bit of courage up. Please don't be so stupid as to think, oh, they have no idea about the intricacies of this underage assault rifle law. Please. No, what happened was they wanted to wait until they thought that it was just close enough to the jury being dismissed, as close as they possibly could get, before they say, oh, you know what, now that we've had a chance to look at it, we think that this weapons charge is improper, so I'm throwing it out. Now, for the last few days, the white media trying to cover their behinds because of how blatant and open the judge is being with his bias and his prejudice. The white media has been running some pieces on CNN and a couple of little segments, one or two segments on PBS or something, and a number of white newspaper websites that have been running a one-and-done article going, oh, the judge's behavior has been strange. He's under a microscope for his behavior. They're doing that to cover their behinds, because they understand people are looking at them and going, gee, how come you guys haven't been playing Kyle Rittenhouse's latest hits? How come we had to find out about the girl that he beat up, either from the black media or have to find out about it later when the judge is dismissing all this stuff and say, I'm not allowing any of this evidence in the trial? How come we haven't been seen on a nonstop loop? Everybody's been seeing how the white media treats black people murdered by white supremacists. So why is it that the white supremacist shooter, we never see any of all the crimes that he's committed? White media's got to cover themselves. So they're doing these one-and-done CYA pieces where they say, oh, okay, the judge's behavior has been biased. It has been, yes, we admit it. Okay, nothing to do. Let's move along, though. Nothing we can do. He's the judge, so there's nothing we can do. Yeah, if he's white, there's nothing you can do. But if you're Judge Olu Stevens, on the other hand, well, this judge's behavior, he's going to be proper for the bar disciplinary committee. They're going to have to have this guy kicked off the bench. Then all of a sudden, something needs to be done. No, the white media is not at all outraged about corrupt Judge Schroeder's behavior. They're not outraged at all. There was across-the-board condemnation from the white media towards Judge Lance Ito. You'll remember Lance Ito, he was the judge in the OJ trial. But Lance Ito never said that Ron and Nicole could not be called victims, or that they could be called drug addicts or criminals. Well, if Johnny Cochran has proof, However, the judge in this trial, the Rittenhouse trial, that's exactly what he did. He said you can't call these shooting victims victims, though you can call them rioters or looters. Lance Ito never yelled at the prosecutor, not in the OJ trial. He had every right to do so, by the way. Hell, he should have been chewing a new behind for Marsha Clark and Christopher Darden all throughout that trial. But he never did. But the judge in this case, he's made it a point that he's going to be yelling and screaming at the prosecutor every chance he gets. Oh, why, this is outrageous. In all my years on the bench, I tell you. Lance Ito never told the courtroom to applaud one of the defense witnesses. Oh, one of these guys who's going to be saying that OJ didn't do it. Before he takes the stand, though, can everybody in the courtroom please applaud him? That's what Judge Schroeder did in this trial. Yeah, this defense witness over here. Somebody said that he was in the armed services a while back, and hopefully he was killing some black people. But before he takes the stand, everybody applaud him, please. Yeah, because there's nothing prejudicial or biased about that. That doesn't have the appearance of bias at all, does it? But that's the point. It is supposed to be in your face, open, and egregious. But that's the point of it. It is supposed to be this outrageous. That's by design. That's the intent. That's the entire point. The judge, this white supremacist on the bench, he cannot afford to be subtle about this. He's trying to send a clear, unequivocal message. He wants as many fellow white supremacists and white supremacist sympathizers to see this and, hey guys, race war's on. We need you guys to get emboldened about this. Yeah, we need to be killing these niggers and anybody who calls themselves standing with them. Kill them in the streets and make it clear we are going to say that this is legal. White supremacy is under threat. We gotta pull out all the stops. That's what the judge is doing here. And biased the judge is, so instead, they're going ahead and admitting to it. They're admitting, yeah, we see it too. We can't deny it. But we're not going to dwell on it. So I'm going to reiterate what I've been saying about this trial from the very beginning. The judge is going to be doing everything that he can to dismiss as many of the charges as possible. And of course, when worse comes to worse, he'll just be citing Rittenhouse's age on everything. He'll just be saying that across the board. His age, his age. Well, his age makes this different. His age, you see, his age. Well, we have to consider his age. Because that's what he's been saying from the beginning. He's going to continue saying that as his pretense for what it was that he was going to do anyway. Rittenhouse's age has nothing to do with it. The judge just figures that that's going to be the excuse that he hangs his hat on. And the white media will let him. And you'll have Jeffrey Tubin and others saying, well, I don't think there was a race card here at all. I think it's just a matter of, the law. The law is not perfect, you see. And they really need to, maybe some of those legal loopholes need to be addressed. But what won't be said is that the judge needs to be investigated by the State Bar Disciplinary Committee, that the judge needs to be dragged off that bench. Oh, they gave Lance Ito hell back in the day. Why? Because Lance Ito, well, he didn't railroad O.J. Simpson. He failed to do what white supremacy required him to do, which is he was supposed to railroad O.J. Simpson. Oh, well, they're supposed to be, this nigger's supposed to go away. Well, it doesn't matter if all the evidence is either non-existent or has been tampered with and manufactured. It doesn't matter that the case is based on lies. And not even, I would love to say circumstantial evidence, but circumstantial evidence implies that there was something to imply that there was some sort of evidence. Nothing here at all. There's no connections. And Lance Ito simply said, hey, the law is clear on this thing. And meanwhile, you got the white media saying the law is whatever we say it is. We're white and we say so. And this nigger, we got to make an example out of him. So whether it be Joe Scarborough, who had a momentary lapse of common sense, or whether it be the other white media outlets, NBC News and others, who are suddenly saying, well, this judge's behavior very strange. No, that's just something they're saying for you and me in the hopes that when we call them out on it, they can say, well, you can't say that we didn't say anything about this judge's behavior. Why? We wrote one article. But it's not the judge or the jury's behavior that should be of interest to us. It is our own. Black empowerment has not and will not come into its own until we have gained enough resources and enough focus as a group to be able to punish white people for their transgressions against us. Some white supremacists call themselves harming black people. Some white supremacists decide that they're going to be trying to promote policies or craft policies or push policies meant to harm us. We have to have the ability to punish them for it. When we are able to do that, then we will have come into our own. Sure, you can have the Michael Bloomberg. We will show that we were able to punish him. But I'm talking about punish them consistently. This Judge Schroeder, what do we have the ability to do to punish this guy? Is there any black person who's in the position of a prosecutor at the state level? State Bar Disciplinary Committee? How about in a position where there can be pressure put on this guy, get him off the bench or to attack his pension, because he's going to be getting one from the state, in a position to make sure that there's penalties that attach for his behavior. Punishment is what's called for here. Whether you want to think inside or outside of the box, punishment. This judge is sitting on the bench and he should be removed from the bench and put into a prison cell. So when you look at all of the illegal maneuvering that this judge is engaged in, clearly violating any semblance of being impartial, just making a show out of it, it just goes to prove that when it comes to power, that's something that's far too important to be left up to chance. Justice is far too important for us to be leaving it up to chance. It must be our mission, our goal, and our purpose that we have our thumb on the scales. Make sure that there is a hand on the scales of justice, a black hand. Because up until now, it's been the white supremacist grubby paws on the scale, and there has been no justice. As far as Rittenhouse walking, in a way, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Because it would help black folks to look and see, look how blatant they're being about it. My big concern is the same as when Donald Trump lost the election. Black folks see that happen, and they think, well, if we just go ahead and have a couple of demonstrations, a couple of civil unrest, then these guys, they'll know we mean business. And then black folks can go back to watching the Real Housewives of Who Gives a Damn or playing reruns of Xbox Live or what have you. We can just go back to goofing off. No. It is time for a complete and thorough paradigm shift in how we operate and what we focus on. No matter how this trial shakes out, the agenda of black empowerment, That must not change. We are not subject to whether or not we sit back and wait and see if the same criminal injustice system created by our oppressors is going to every once in a while either be forced to bend to our will or if there's going to be the occasional fluke. We can't be doing that. We got to be looking at making it clear we're going to be in charge, and we're not asking, we're taking. So these judges, they're just as bad as these white supremacist thugs with badges. But we got to make sure that we focus on all of them. Yes, there is an apparatus in place. It's not going to be just some one and done. Well, we can just go ahead and make sure we put the arm on the thugs in blue. No, you got to do it with the thugs in blue. You got to do it with the prosecutors. You got to do it with the judges. Breaking the enforcement on white supremacy, you must set out to destroy all of it. You got to break all of it. A couple of fingers here and there won't do. Spraining the wrist or a green stick fracture to the radius, that won't do. When you set out to destroy white supremacy, you must destroy completely. And that is the task, the glorious mission that stands before us now. How do you ensure that you don't have any more corrupt white supremacists on the bench? You show these racist bastards that you got the power to punish the last racist who you found on the bench. Good day, and be one.